Zion Williamson is a problem. Even in an injury-shortened rookie season, he's already proven that his unique blend of size, athleticism, and sheer musculature makes him an incredibly unique, one-of-a-kind player. Which of course raises the incredibly stupid question of, what if there were like a bunch of Zions?
The starting lineup for the Pelicans. Williamson out there with Williamson. Then there's Williamson. Then there's Williamson. And it's Williamson in at the small forward.
The experiment is dumb and very simple. Thanks to 2K's export and import DNA feature, we can clone Zion Williamson. So why wouldn't we, put together a team full of Zion Williamsons and just see what they were capable of doing? With 15 Zions on the roster, it was easy to divide them up with 3 each for each position. So 3 point guard Zions, 3 shooting guard Zions, so on and so forth. Each Zion would also have a secondary position that was different from any of the other Zions. So one of the point guard Zions was a point guard / center, for example. There's also an incredibly stupid 2K glitch involving sending a player down to the G League for a season and their development becoming significantly more rapid than it ever should be. So, you know what? We're going to take advantage of that too. We're going to play most of our Zions. We're going to take 2 of them and see how they develop in the G League. I'm really trying to be as hands-off as possible here, so I really let the computer decide what they want to do. Outside of the fact that, we've got 13 Zions available to us to play in a single game, let's play every single one of them a various amount of minutes and just see what happens. Now, if you've played with Zion on NBA 2K20, you know that, he's very strong. So if you've got a point guard Zion, then you're just going to try to back down the other team's point guard as often as possible. But Zion is a unique player in that he can do a whole lot of things. He's got the speed of most guards. He's got decent enough ball handling, passing vision. I mean, he's kind of an all-around player who just happens to also be stronger than literally everyone else. I played a few minutes myself where I was in charge of the Zions just to kind of see what it was like. And really what I found is when a human is controlling Zion, since he's not going to break any ankles or anything, your best bet is to always back down the point guard and just make his life miserable. And hey, it was fun to play around for a little bit, but the experiment's to see what the computer thinks a team of Zions will do. So let's just move ahead and just kind of see if they think that, oh good lord, look at that score line. Okay, so the Zions won big, but hey, I played the first few minutes of the game. I don't know if there's some sort of momentum factor that gets played into the Super Sim when you select that, any of that sort of stuff. Let's actually get the computer to play and simulate a game, an entire game, with the Zions in control, and see what they think will happen then. Surely this computer doesn't think that a, freak of nature like Zion has enough skill to be able to match up with, let's say, Luka Doncic, one of the most skilled players in the NBA right now. And can we just take a moment to admire the fact that there's a bunch of Zions just like hanging out with each other and laughing at each other's jokes and high-fiving each other? Do you think Zion has a different signature handshake with every other Zion on the team? It's got to be difficult to keep track of all of that, right? Very early on, we figure out that Zion doesn't quite have the defensive quickness to keep up with somebody like Luka, who is just really, really good, fun to watch. Top of my list, actually, of players that I want to see in person right now. It takes a few minutes before one of the Zions actually gets on the board. I don't know if that was power forward Zion or point guard Zion, but either way, that's the first basket for any of the Zions. And hey, after a few minutes, the Zions actually have taken a lead, and they're doing it in real-life Zion ways. Offensive rebounds, out-muscling Europeans. I mean, it's classic, actual Zion. And look at the celebration here. Look at the celebration. Just fast forward a few more minutes and the Zions have doubled up the Mavericks. So that's interesting. But I mean, at the same time, it's the Mavericks. Like, outside of Luka, outside of KP, you know, they're not necessarily a great matchup. I mean, look at the way Zion's able to just kind of shrug Finney-Smith off on that possession. I don't know if this is really telling us what the game thinks of Zion, or the game just thinks that maybe the Mavericks are a roster that can get relocated by a human forklift. Yeah, and see, look, by the end of the first quarter, Luka has gotten 14 points. Point guard, shooting guard, Zion, not able to hang with Luka. The Mavericks have made it a close ball game again. So surely this is a sign of where the momentum is shifting, because most of the sims I've done where I've watched the computer play against itself, the team that starts off slow comes back, gains momentum, and ends up winning. But I mean, not if they're giving up offensive rebounds like that. That's fundamental. All right, I'll be honest. By the fourth quarter, I've stopped trying to make sense of any of this. The game still is convinced that a whole bunch of Zions is going to be better than the Dallas Mavericks. That only tells us one team. Let's go ahead and look at the rest of the season and see what exactly this game thinks will happen if a team is built entirely of Zions. Now, the Zions do obviously have the benefit of a very deep bench. They have the ability to sub in the same player no matter what happens, such as right here, where one of the small forward bench Zions gets hurt and has to miss time. Well, that's okay. He just gets replaced by his own clone. So that does work in their favor at least a little bit. But hey, the rules that we set for ourselves said it was a team full of Zions, not just a starting lineup that never ever subbed anybody out or anything like that. So this is what we're going to do for the entirety of the season. And in the month of November, it starts off well. They only lose, let's see, what is that, 4 games. They're going to lose 4 games throughout the entire month of November to start things off. Their 15-4 record is good enough to put them in second place in the West at the beginning of the young NBA season, significantly better than the real-life Pelicans did, of course. And taking a look at some minor improvements in overall rating, including from point guard Zion, who is leading the team in points per game. And this is the conundrum here. I mean, point guard is obviously the position that Zion should struggle at the most, but at the same time, if you tried to put any NBA point guard against Zion Williamson, they're not going to be able to handle his pure physicality. Plus, who are we to argue about the realism of whether Zion Williamson could play point guard? We cloned Zion like 14 times. We should really be arguing the ethics of cloning Zion Williamson. Then there's the month of December. We have another injury to one of the Zions, a high ankle sprain. However, they don't really miss a beat. They go on another winning streak. It takes them all the way until I was waiting to see when they would lose. It's the 23rd. That gap was just me waiting to see when they would actually lose. They went through the entire month of December with only 1 loss. That puts them firmly in first place of the Western Conference, 5.5 games up. And look at the improvements already happening. No surprise, though. The players who are improving are the players that still play the real-life Zion Williamson position. As far as statistics go, point guard Zion still leads the team in points per game and also averages 5.6 rebounds per game. When you play the exact same player with the exact same tendencies, almost identical minutes across the board, you notice that the stats end up looking pretty much the same, including the fact that center Zion is the player who actually leads the team in assists. Moving on through January, we come up on the All-Star break. Now, none of our Zions are putting up the type of numbers that would really get them. Wait a second, what is this? Clint Capella. Why would we ever give up a Zion for a Clint Capella? Actually, that's not a terrible idea, because then we would have another player who can't play guard. Maybe we do point guard Clint Capella at some point in time. You know what? That'll be an experiment for another day. As I was saying, None of the Zions are putting up all-star level statistics so far, so even if they keep winning games and winning them by stupid scores like 153 to 137, and including beating the Lakers 146 to 117, even if they keep doing that, none of them are really getting the individual accolades. It takes until the end of January before we see a few losses in a row. The Zions are now down to 8 losses total on the season, but that still puts them a stupid 6 games up in the West. I mean, if I keep repeating the word stupid, you understand why this whole thing ends up being a lot more stupid than I thought it would be. And I mean, this whole thing started as a joke. I assumed that it would be stupid. I mean, a friend of mine made a joke comment to me about how I like to be a general manager on 2K, and he just expects me one day to fill up a team entirely of Zions. And I said, hey, you know what? Why don't I actually do that? I didn't really expect, though, that this would be the result, that the team full of Zions would run rampant throughout the league. That at the All-Star break, they would lead the Western Conference. And not only that, but they would all headline the dunk contest.
You know it's going to be a show.
Good. The stuff between the legs, these guys love this, don't they?
Yeah, they do. It's a self-toss, and then you take it through. Like, you got to have tremendous coordination, bounce ability, and then timing.
Not easy.
Because you could be up there, and if the timing's not right, the dunk doesn't come off.
In flight, and then keep aiming for and stay high enough. Second to the stage, looking to make an impression with his first dunk. Chance to come out strong and make his presence felt, Clark.
And get the crowd on your side.
Wow.
Pick it off the ground, one hand
Terrific. Good for him.
A cartwheel into a pickup,
Some
into
ingenuity.
a one-hand windmill.
There we go. Thank you.
That is nice.
Yep.
Fourth on the list. Let's see what he can do.
Oh, yeah.
After that, look at the elevation, boy. I think he's looking into the goal here, Kevin. I mean, his head was rim high.
Good call.
Rim high. Look at this. Bounce it, catch it, and look at it while you punch it.
Aggressively going in.
Yeah, that was nasty right there.
Have you ever noticed just how kind they are to the dunk contest competitors? It's such a nice, refreshing change from real life, where the dunk contest involves a handful of announcers talking over each other about how much better they could do if they were as athletic as the people competing. It makes it almost unbearable to watch because it's just a lot of screaming and I don't know. Anyway, that was the highest score at 47 that we were going to see in this whole competition. But it is interesting because the very next dunk was one of the Zions doing something that had already been done. It just did the exact same dunk that another one of the Zions attempted in the first round of the competition. He did the cartwheel, picked it up, slammed it in. I really don't understand why the AI would think it would be worthwhile to do the exact same dunk that it had already done earlier in the competition. Oh, it's because it got the exact same score. Anyway, the dunk contest mini game sucks because they ruined it. It used to be good and they really completely screwed it all up. But one of the Zions jumped over a bunch of other Zions that all congregated, and that was probably the only other thing left to watch in this entire competition. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. He actually ends up getting a lower score than the guy who did the exact same dunk as another competitor earlier. Now, getting back to what actually does matter is the rest of the regular season. We get out of the All-Star break. The Zions continue their reign of destruction upon the league. By the end of March, they've only lost 12 games. They're 10 games up on the Mavericks in the Western Conference. They're going to end the regular season with a 68-14 record. That is actually tied for the 6th best overall record in NBA history. A team that consists of a power forward playing every single position put together one of the greatest seasons in the history of the National Basketball Association. While none of the Zions were in contention for Rookie of the Year, a handful of them did end up placing on the first and second All-Rookie teams. 4 Zions in total, first or second team All-Rookie. Now, as far as improvement goes, Zion starts off, as of the last roster update that 2K put out, at an 85 overall for the power forward position. So you see, the forwards didn't improve a huge amount, just went up 2, 3 overall points. Center Zion, though, he's actually an 88 overall. His morale is down because he played in the G League all season. So he did jump up from where he started to an 88. But that's no big surprise. That's what Zion plays. He's a post player. How about the guard? Guard Zion went up to an 85 overall. Point guard Zion even jumped up to, well, that's an 85 overall because of the G League exploit. But the regular point guard Zion ended the season at an 82 overall. You might remember he started at 79. So all the Zions went up at least by 3 overall points. The 2 G League Zions went up by significantly more than that. Well, at this point, I am beyond doubting what the Zions are capable of doing. I mean, they went through the regular season with only 14 losses. Sure, why wouldn't they sweep the Warriors? Why not roll past the Denver Nuggets? Surely 2K isn't dumb enough, though, to let a team that consists of one player win the NBA title, though, right?
And they've done it, the new NBA champions.
All right, well, there you go. A team consisting of a guy who's not even old enough to drink champagne is spraying it all over the locker room. Alvin Gentry, if you're watching, you should clone Zion Williamson. It will get you a championship instantly. It's now scientifically proven.